It's all just a jigsaw. Even as I get older, and there's still so much that I don't know. I wish there was more than this empty feeling that comes at a cost. Maybe once you loved me, now your love is long lost. Standing strong on the shoreline while I build my castles in the sand. But time will wash away kingdoms and leave you with nothing except a reminder in your hand. I wish there was more than this empty feeling.
Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No.
I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something. Is a
Hot mic. Hot mic. On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo. Dom Izzo.
Good Tuesday morning. This is, I hope you stayed up late edition of Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, Inforum.com on the 18th day of July 2023. And if you did stay up late, you were not rewarded for your loyalty. At least the Twins didn't deliver. If you're a Mariners fan, it was great. Welcome, everybody, to Hot Mic here on this Tuesday. I am Dom Izzo, host of said show. We should have a lively program today. The unintentional firestorm that began with I don't think it was a throwaway comment that was made by the former athletic director at the University of Montana, has certainly sparked some interest south of here in Brookings, which we'll dive into today on South Dakota State as we get ready for the upcoming season. And the Jacks clearly going to be the prohibitive favorite to win the national championship. Where is the aspiration level for their football team? I think we all know where North Dakota State wants to see itself. Does South Dakota State view itself the same way? I think we're going to take a headlong dive into that on the show today, simply because of the comments that we got yesterday from our discussion on it. It's worthy of us getting into. So we're going to do that before we say so long today. We'll also hear from the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference. Greg Sankey spoke yesterday at SEC Media Days. There's a couple of big topics he discussed. One, expansion, everybody wants to talk about. The second was on name, image, likeness, and I thought that was intriguing, so we'll dive into that. Also, yesterday, should not be throwaway news, NCAA announced that there is going to be a second women's postseason basketball tournament. And it will be enacted for this year, a sort of WNIT, which proposes an issue because there already is a WNIT, as well know that North Dakota State played in it this past season. South Dakota State won it a couple years ago. We're going to get into that as well because I like the idea. I'm interested in what the qualifications for it are going to be. But it's going to be funded by the NCAA, which is something the WNIT is not. I think we all found that out this past March when the Bison made it and had to fit the bill on flying to Oregon, staying out there for a couple of days. That is not a cheap endeavor. That would not be the case for this new event. We'll chat about that in just a little bit. So lots to get to here today. Not a sleepy Tuesday, not at all. And typically, anyway, on a day like today, I got a feeling something may pop. So we'll keep our eyes peeled there. Let's begin with those red-hot Minnesota Twins. I warned them. You won 3 in a row against a really bad Oakland team. Now facing a Mariners team that was desperate. Seattle, of course, was a playoff team a year ago. You figure Mariners were around 500. They're going to be trying to get themselves back in the race. Opening up a series last night with the Twins at the former Safeco Field Park. And it's a beautiful ballpark. Twins get out to a good start. Carlos Correa, again, opposite field hitting. Haven't seen enough of that. Goes down the right field line. That gets the Twins out to a good start, scoring Michael A. Taylor. Here's the play of the game, folks. Max Kepler up in the 4th inning. It's 2-0. Hits a ball down the right field line for a base hit. Max is huffing and puffing his way into second base. And this is why the Dom Izzo School of Running trips over the bat. The somersault out of the box. Oh, man. That got the dugout roaring. Twins, of course, couldn't score. Remains 2-2. Now into the bottom of the 5th inning. Mariners would take the lead on this RBI single from Jarred Kelenic. Why can't the Mets find players like him? Traded him away. That was for Edwin Diaz. Twins get a run back on a Joey Gallo bomb to center. Makes it a 4-3 game in the 6th inning. We pick it up now, bottom of the 7th. Eugenio Suarez in, and this ball is absolutely crushed. 2-run bomb. I only saw a home run there from Julio Rodriguez last week in the Derby. That makes it a 7-3 game. I like the home run celebration in Seattle. 2 on the top of the 9th. Max Kepler gets the Twins back in with one swing of the bat, 3-run home run. It's a 7-6 game with 2 outs. Twins down to their last strike. And you can't go down looking too many times. That's happened this season. Jeffers strikes out looking, and the game ends. And the Mariners eke out a 7-6 win over the Twins in a battle of 2 teams that are barely over 500. The Mariners are now over 500. The Twins are just 1 game over 500. And again, I'll look at the lineup here, and Walder's not playing. Why bring him up and not play him? And we're going to have to do something with Byron Buxton. 0 for 5 last night. Struck out 3 times. The batting average is down to 196. He was hitting 3rd. You cannot have your 3rd place hitter hitting a $196 and striking out as often as he is. It's not palatable. It's not sustainable. There's nothing about that can work. I don't know what that will entail for Rocco Baldelli and the Twins management on this, but it ain't pretty right now for Byron. He can't play the outfield, so he can't even get his mind off of things in the field because he can't play center field, is what we're told. They're in a bad lot right now. Twins, as we see, lose. It was only a matter of time for the Guardians would actually win a baseball game, so the up-to-date standings look like this, with the Cleveland now a game and a half back. The Tigers won, so they picked up a game in the standings. Game 2 of the series comes up tonight in Seattle. After Sonny Gray got the loss yesterday, Bailey Ober will pitch tonight for the Mariners, or for the Twins. Brian Wu will pitch for Seattle, a mark of 1-1, ERA of 3.63. He's going. So another late night tonight. You're just kind of racking your mind here on what they're going to do moving forward with Buxton. I don't know. We'll have Dick Bramer join us tomorrow from Seattle in anticipation of Game 3. I don't know. You cannot have your 3-hitter strike out as often as he is and hitting under 200. It's not going to work. And it's not a slump. It's been all season long with this. Clearly he's hurt, right? I mean, we can say that because he's not well enough to play the field, but he's well enough to hit. I don't know. You shut him down again? I don't know. But there's something clearly not right, and it's costing him. It's costing him big time right now. A couple other baseball highlights we want to show before we set up what's going on today on our program. Every summer, we get one piece of video like this. I actually sympathize with our next piece of video. The Red Hawks let me do this a few years ago when I was still anchoring the sports every night. There's two things I always wanted to do. One was throw out a first pitch. They let me do that. The second was I wanted to be on the grounds crew. I wanted to pull the tarp out on a rain delay. And granted, theirs is not nearly as efficient. That's not to say they don't do a good job, because they do, as a major league one. But sometimes things go awry. And that happened last night in Cincinnati between the Reds and the Giants. It starts raining. The game is halted. And let's show you what happens here, because you cannot hesitate on a tarp pull. All right? Watch one of the guys, top of your screen here. He's going to go under, and then he's gone. He's gone. And that's not good, because that suffocates to the field. You got a man down, man. You got to get him out of there. I mean, yes, and this video is going to get played everywhere today. I've already seen it on a couple of the morning shows. The broadcasters were having a good time with it, which not ideal. But watch again. Top part of your screen, when they get going, he's going to fall there, and you can't stop. You cannot. It's like literally like the Reynolds wrap. You can't stop midway and get it to cling. You got to go all the way across. Poor guy. Thankfully, he was okay. The game was not. They didn't even finish the game last night. It was suspended. Very few baseball games get suspended because of the rain. Thankfully, they got the tarp on, and our guy was okay. They suspended the game in the 8th inning. It'll be resumed later today at about 4:45 Central Time, and then they'll play the regularly scheduled game after that between two pretty good ball teams there, and the Giants and the Reds. Every year, you can guarantee that something like that's going to happen, and it happened again last night in Cincinnati. What also happened again last night was Shohei Ohtani hitting a home run. Highlight game last night. The Yankees are in Anaheim to play the Angels, and that is always a huge Yankee hangout for fans. You'll remember last year when Aaron Judge was out there and hit a couple of bombs and is on his way to breaking Roger Maris's record. They were out in droves last night. A lot of cutouts of Ohtani wearing a Yankee hat and jersey, which I'm sure they want that to happen. But he still plays for the Angels. And last night, tight game. It's a 3-1 game in the bottom of the 7th inning. He's up. Why are you pitching to him? That part I didn't understand. There's a man on base. Give it to him. Instead, bashes a 2-run home run to left center. How about the bat flip? This is not a guy who does this. He is not want to upstate. That is not Ohtani's way. I love it. He absolutely smashed it. He knew he got it. He's just a phenom right now. It just is the best story of baseball. He came up in the 9th inning. Watch this. Takes a big hack here, and then you could see little Ginger after that swing that he may have tweaked his back. You hope not, because that was a ferocious cut that he took up there. I mean, literally every at-bat is worth watching. He did strike out. That was the only time he didn't reach on base. He went 3 for 4 with that home run. Angels say he's okay. We'll see if he's back in the lineup tonight. The Angels ended up walking off the Yankees here, bottom of the 10th inning, on a base hit. Michael Stefanik with the base hit there to walk off as the Angels ended up beating the Yankees 4-3. Bigger story is what happened with Ohtani and just how magnetic he is to watch. I hope for even the average sports fan, they are appreciating what we're seeing every day, because that. I watched that live I turned the Twins game off because they were infuriating me. I flipped this on right to see Ohtani hit his home run, and that was electric last night. Good stuff. At least it was more entertaining than the Twins until the 9th inning, and then they still ended up losing. So we'll see. Another big night of baseball ahead. Lots to get to on our show this morning. Coming up in a few minutes, we'll do our spotlight games for Week 7 of the FCS season. We have moved to that part of the schedule, so now in the middle part of October. Excited about that. That's coming up here in just a few minutes. Mike McFeely will join us at 9:35 at his usual Tuesday time slot. Mike wrote the story yesterday. He got comments from both NDSU and SDSU about the comments that Jim O'Day mentioned late last week, that both the NDSU and SDSU presidents were actively trying to get into the Mountain West. Both have denied that. We'll chat about that and a bunch more coming up here in just a few minutes. That's at 9:35. At 10:35, Tom Miller will join us, now the sports editor of the Grand Forks Herald. We'll visit with him as UND gets set to open up fall camp here in a couple weeks. Also, for the big story that happened last week, we're talking about NIL and what Greg Sankey said yesterday. The story that the Herald broke last week, that UND will start compensating his athletes for in relation to grades. First of its kind, at least in the area. We're going to discuss that with Tom coming up at 10:35. That and a heck of a lot more on our show this morning. So we're off and rolling. We're glad you're joining us. We'll take a break. We come back. Some of the highlight games for Week 7 of the FCS calendar. We'll do that when Hot Mike returns on this Tuesday morning, right after this. Well, welcome back, everybody. All right, you know we are your uniform, helmet, jersey leader. This just dropped as we started our show today from the Cleveland Browns. That's tight end David Njoku. As the Browns apparently are going to wear a white helmet, white jersey, white pants for this upcoming season. The Browns say they're going to wear this 3 separate times. Week 2 on Monday Night Football against the Steelers. Week 6 against the 49ers. And then in a Week 17 showdown with the New York Football Jets on Thursday Night Football right after Christmas on December the 28th. What do we make of those? I'm indifferent right now, I think is the best way, because they look like they're ripping off the Bengals here. They're in-state rival. Cincinnati, you'll know, dropped the white Bengal helmet last year, I think, to critical acclaim. I think that was probably the most popular of the new helmets that came out last year with the white. Everything about the Cincinnati one is great. The part that bugs me on the Browns, there's no logo on the helmet. You know, they had that survey that was earlier this spring on what their alternate logo should be. Put the dog on that. Wouldn't that be cool? I just don't like there's no helmet or logo on the helmet, I guess. Maybe that's just me, but I don't know. We'll see if we get some feedback on that. We posted that on our Twitter account, so we'll see. But that just broke here as we started the show. Okay, so anything helmet, uniform related, we stop everything to make sure we get that on the show. We mentioned it. Let's do it here as we continue our series looking at the spotlight games for the FCS calendar for this 2023 season. We're into the middle of October, so now we're into the nitty-gritty of the season. Week 7, these games being played October the 14th weekend, headlined by the in-state rivalry game here. North Dakota State at North Dakota. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff on WDAY. That will be a heck of an atmosphere in Grand Forks that day. Let's just call it like it is. Last time the Bison went up there 2 years ago, a 16-7 North Dakota State win. UND's prime. They want the Bison badly. SDSU got them pretty good when they played last November in Fargo. That will be a heck of an atmosphere in Grand Forks that day. Also in the Missouri Valley, maybe a better game. Defending champion South Dakota State welcomes in Northern Iowa. Love when these guys play. 2 o'clock in Brookings on ESPN+. Here's the crazy stat on this. Northern Iowa can't beat the Jacks at home. But on the road in Brookings, they've been really good against South Dakota State, including a playoff win. You'll remember a couple of years ago, I believe in 2019, they won there. When they played a couple of seasons ago, 2021, in Brookings, the Panthers won 26-17. They play well. I got this game circled. I think everybody already knows where I'm at with Northern Iowa for this upcoming football season. I think they're the 3rd best team in the conference. That has the makings of what could be a dynamite football game. 2 o'clock, ESPN+. That night, late night football from the Big Sky. How about this one? This is a good one for everybody to sink their teeth into. Actually, it's Montana. It's not Montana State. Hopefully I didn't send that one wrong to Kyle, but it is Montana at Idaho that night. 9:30, ESPN2. Idaho, of course, is everybody's darling. After the rebound season they had last year of making it into the FCS playoffs, lost in the opening round to Southeastern Louisiana. Montana's the standard bearer, as we well know. It's a 9:30 Central Time start in Moscow on ESPN2. The Kibbie Dome is getting national attention, but it's part of the Big Sky deal that they get games on national TV. So that's Montana at Idaho that night, 9:30 ESPN2. The last game is not a throwaway game. from the southeastern corner of the United States. Furman at Samford. It's a noon kick, ESPN Plus. Now, on the outside, I'm sure for people up here, like, really? These are two teams we know the Bison have kicked the you-know-what out of. Samford came up here, and the Bison beat them in the FCS quarterfinals a year ago. They won 10 football games. Last year, these two teams played. Samford won 34-27. This has the makings of what should be a great football game. Furman last year won 10 games. They made it to the second round of the tournament. They lost to Incarnate Word in a crazy game in San Antonio, 41-38, or the Paladins would have went to Sacramento and not Incarnate Word and give us the greatest football game that we've seen in a long, long time. There, one poll out there that has preseason poll, national poll, not the SoCon poll, that has Furman as the number 2 ranked team in the country. I'm just going to let that sink in for people. Number 2 ranked team in the country. No. They may be a nice team, but if they are even to face a North Dakota State team that has some question marks, the Bison would still roll them. Haven't we seen this movie enough, people? I know a topic Mike just loves to sink his teeth into, but it's like, what are we doing? I think that could be a great game. I'm not saying anything else otherwise, but to think that they're going to be ranked that high when the national poll comes out in a couple weeks, I think that's asinine. They could be a top 10 team. That's fine. They're not going to be ranked higher than the Bison. They shouldn't. Anybody that actually votes in that would know that. So those are our spotlight games for Week 7. SDSU, UND, Northern Iowa, South Dakota State, Montana, Idaho, Furman, and Samford for Week 7. That takes us to the middle part of October. So we're back tomorrow. We're on the second half of the 2023 season. That Montana-Idaho game will have some people staying up, I think, just to see, depending on where everything's at. Idaho, prior to playing that game with the Grizz that late, they'll have opened up with Lamar. They play Nevada and Cal back-to-back. So they have 2 FBS games back-to-back. That's going to beat the heck out of them. Then they play Sacramento State at home. They go to Eastern Washington and at Cal Poly. They have a bye week in between after this game with the Grizz, and then they play Montana State at home. So they have both the Bobcats and the Grizz in Moscow this year, but that is a much more difficult schedule that they have waiting for them for this upcoming football season. So to expect them to, and remember, they beat Montana in Missoula last year, one of their big-time wins that really got them on the national landscape. A couple of responses to the Browns helmet jersey. One says looking kind of high schoolish. Another says sharp. I think that's probably a universal reaction. Again, you need something on the helmet. You need something there to throw it up. What do you got here next to me, Eric? This is Mississippi State. We can throw that up. That's all right. It's very stately, I guess is the right way to describe it. That's sharp. I don't mind that one. That's okay. Doesn't do a ton for me. That's all right, though. Clean look. Isn't that what everybody says now? Clean. That's not bad. That's not a bad look there. We will take a break. We come back. Mike McFeely will join us in studio. Lots to get to, including story yesterday that Mike wrote on NDSU, SDSU, FBS football, Mountain West, all that kind of stuff. We'll dive into that and a heck of a lot more when Hot Mike returns on a Tuesday morning. We're back right after this.
it's Mr. McFeely.
I have seen the future, and he was wearing number 5, and I ain't talking about Robbie Grimsley, folks.
Took out the muffins, took out the trail mix, took out the cookies. They stole the monster cookies.
Wow, that's awesome. That is so awesome. Let's do some broadcasting.
Yeah. Let's do it. Mike McFeely joins us in studio. Good to see you, Michael. Excellent reporting yesterday after we played the sound late in the week last week. Former Montana Athletic Director Jim O'Day on Coulter Nuanez podcast that NDSU and SDSU's presidents were actively trying to get into the Mountain West. Mm-hmm. And I said well, what does actively mean? I mean, what we could go down that road, which I wasted oxygen on that.
I would, to answer your question, my definition of actively would be like saying,
making a phone call,
we want in. Which,
that's what I said.
Not give us a call, but we want in, and here's why you should let us in. Let it be
known.
And here's why we'd be a benefit to your conference, and here's our resume, and here's our financials. That, to me, is actively seeking.
You're reporting you spoke with either representatives or spokespeople for both NDSU and SDSU's presidents, and both have vehemently denied this.
Basically had the same statement, which tells me that they were in communication with each other about the statement.
Something's coming.
Which does not surprise me.
Nope.
I mean, even if they were actively seeking membership in the Mountain West Conference, would they tell us they were actively seeking membership in the Mountain West Conference?
I'm going to go no.
No, they would not. And so it doesn't surprise me. I was on a South Dakota radio program last night, and the question I got from Nate Brown out in Rapid City was, what do you think is going on? And that's the $1,000 question. But what I think is going on, and I can speak with some confidence on this, is I do believe that the Mountain West knows, in the case of North Dakota State, that they would like to be considered if there's ever an opportunity, if San Diego State or Boise State or Fresno State or whomever moves on to a Power 5 conference. I think North Dakota State, one way or another, has let the Mountain West know we'd like to talk to you about that, any potential opening you might have. And I think for me, that's probably about as far as I think it's gone to this point. I don't believe that there have been in-depth discussions in terms of, any campus visits, any secret campus visits. I don't think it's got to that point, but I do believe that North Dakota State has made it known through various means that they would be interested. South Dakota State, I can't speak to South Dakota State.
No, that's what I wanted to ask you about, because that was a topic that both you and I ended up getting embroiled in yesterday, about South Dakota State's interest in FBS football. I visited with Justin Sell about this when we were at the Summit League basketball tournament in March.
As I did in Frisco.
You did in Frisco in January.
And John Stiglmeyer did as well in Frisco in January.
I got the answer, and I asked him point blank, we're going to play the sound later in the second hour of the show, that I asked him, do you think you have to be tethered to NDSU? Is this a move of the Bison go that you guys are going to be forced to go? And he said, well, it's hard for him to imagine them not playing the Bison.
Exactly what he said in Frisco in January was it's hard to imagine us not being in the same conference as NDSU.
Right. What do you take from this then? Do you get there's a real interest, let's say from the school level and then from the fan base? Let's go from the school level first.
The fans, and I don't care that much about in Brookings. I just don't. They're enjoying their championship as they should. They're looking forward to being the best team in FCS again as they should.
Yep.
I just think that as a fan base, they are back where NDSU fans were 10 years ago, where it's like, this is the best thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
And then after you win 9 and 11 years, then you go, well, is there anything else out there? But to me, the vibe I've always gotten from South Dakota State is they are happy to be where they are, that they're happy they want to play for a championship because they hadn't before. When I talked to Justin Sell in Frisco, they had not yet won a championship. Correct. And so it's easy for NDSU and it's easy for me to say, well, what do you want to stay in FCS for? Because we've seen NDSU win all these championships. They've beat all the FBS schools. They've blah, 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 all the stuff.
We've been down that road.
All the things, right? But for South Dakota State, it's all new. And so they're not yet to the point where, well, wait a second, what else is there?
Yeah.
What I would say though is at what point do you want to say, well, okay, let's if we win 5 championships, then we want to go FBS.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the way it works. First of all, there's no guarantee you're going to win 5. First of all,
Right.
I mean, I would guess that if they stay FCS for the rest of history, there's a good chance they
win
will
that.
because, again, we've talked about this ad nauseum. What else is out there other than NDSU and a team that rises up once in a while and whatever? But if you're South Dakota State, you have to be ready. And I think they are. I mean, I think they've prepared.
Stadium is good.
The
Indoor is
facilities
good.
are good.
Yep.
They're
Everything's
redoing
ready.
their basketball arena.
But you can't, like we talked about before, you can't put the Mountain West on hold and say, well, you know what? Give us 6 months and we'll get back to you. You can't do that.
No. And that's directly what Matt Larson told me several weeks ago when I talked with him about this. Was NDSU's thing is we have to be ready to give an answer. That doesn't mean we have to be ready to go,
Right.
but it implies that. But we
You need
have
an
to be
answer.
ready to give an
Right.
answer. And so, because if the Mountain West or Conference USA
Whoever.
or the AAC or the Sun Belt or whomever calls, you directly out of Matt Larson's mouth, you can't say, "Oh, we'll get back to you in 6 months." He said it doesn't work that way.
No.
They're going to need an answer within a week or 48 hours.
Right.
Right? I mean,
Or they're moving on.
Or they're
Say,
moving
okay,
on
we
just
got
to
other
somebody
guys.
else. And so, if you're South Dakota State, here's the way I see it. Okay, the Jacks fans were getting on me yesterday on Twitter for what that's worth when I brought up the football only scenario, because they one of the fans said, and he wasn't wrong. He said that that scenario is unprecedented. Why do you think NDSU would get a football only invite? I mean, who do they think they are? Basically, is what he said.
Mm-hmm.
And my answer was, well, but 10 years ago, did you think Maryland and UCLA were going to be in the Big Ten? I mean, no.
Nope.
And so it's all, nothing
Right.
is as it once was.
Correct.
But if somehow, some way, NDSU got a football only invitation to the Mountain West, the AAC, and possibly Conference USA, I think they would be gone
Bye-bye.
yesterday.
Yep.
Because that's easy. You raise an extra $4 to $6 million a year. That's a lot of money. It's nothing to sneeze at, especially with attendance apparently dropping and season ticket sales dropping.
Which that would all change if they'd make
Maybe-
this, though.
maybe.
I believe that.
Maybe it would for a while.
Yeah.
Maybe they're gone, and they do it by themselves.
Yep.
And,
We don't need anybody else.
And I, in my opinion, if that dream scenario, if that moonshot scenario happened, NDSU would see you later. We are happy to be the only FBS football program in the upper Midwest. Northern Illinois would be the closest. NDSU would clean up on recruits.
Yep.
They would dominate this area more than they have in FCS. Now, the scenario changes if the Mountain West calls and says, we would like you for all sports, but you need a travel partner because we're not going to make a trip to Fargo and then not just play one game and leave. And so then,
you
I think then NDSU would have to say, hey, Justin Sell, Barry Dunn.
What do you think?
We were partners 20 years ago. Let's be partners again because, and then if you're South we can't say, we want to play Murray State and win another 5 FCS championships. Get back to us in 2028. That's not the way it works.
No.
It's just not. And so if you have to make hay while the sun is shining is what we say around in these parts, from what I understand. And so, you'd have to do it if you're South Dakota State. If you think that you could make the extra $15 million a year, and that's a whole nother
tremendous amount of money.
Thing is the all sports scenario is so ridiculously expensive.
That's why the football only, which was brought up a month ago or whatever, that's like, well, if there's any sort of light opening there, you go dive into that one.
Yep.
Absolutely. Don't even think twice about it.
And this is all, we might be just totally barking up a tree somewhere, that's
what the show's all about.
That the Mountain West is looking at all of this going, what?
Yeah.
We're going to go take UTEP. Why would we take North Dakota State?
We want something in Texas.
What are you talking about? What? What? You know, I mean, that's a possibility.
I'd say that's probably more likely than you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
yep.
would say that's more of a certainty than what we're talking
Yes,
about right
absolutely.
here.
You know, but man, if the Mountain West called and said football only, gone. If the Mountain West called and said all sports, that's a really hard scenario. But you have to look at it.
I have to entertain it.
Yep. If Conference USA calls and says, okay, look, you know, we have Kennesaw, we have Jacksonville State, we have Sam Houston. We want some juice football-wise, all right? We think North Dakota State could add a little bit of juice football-wise. Give us some attention. Give us a quote-unquote marquee program, even though they don't fit at all in what we're doing. But if Conference USA, if they call and say football only,
well, we're there.
I think at this point, I don't know that you're there, but boy, you have to really seriously look at it.
I think they would go.
And again, that's probably even a bigger, you know.
Well, here I mentioned the teams there. It's Florida International, Jacksonville State, Liberty, La Tech, Middle Tennessee, New Mexico State, Sam Houston, El Paso, and Western Kentucky. That's that league.
I mean, does that? But again, if it's football only,
I'm doing it. I would.
I mean, I think at this point you almost have to do it if it's football only.
I would look at that and say, James Madison stuck its nose up at the Sun Belt years ago, right?
Yeah.
And said no. And then when they came back around and said, hey, they took it, didn't hesitate,
Right.
and now look at it.
Because things change.
Change.
Well, and the other funny,
I think 10 years ago, you look at this Conference USA, like, I don't know.
The other funny part about this, and this just shows where fans are, is, you know, I'm getting some messages for, again, Twitter's not real life.
Nope.
But I'm getting messages that, well, you know, if maybe the Sun Belt would be so desperate as to take North Dakota State, but it's like, you guys, the Sun Belt is pretty good.
Sun Belt's really good, actually.
5 years ago, the Sun Belt was kind of like Conference USA, is like you just said.
Yep.
The Sun Belt now? God, if the Sun Belt called tomorrow and said football only,
let's go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they would have the van headed to Harrisonburg.
Yes.
You know, I mean, because that's Appalachian State.
Yes.
That's all the old
Georgia
FCS,
Southern.
That's all the old FCS powers.
Coastal. Yes.
And now that's not going to happen. No. But that, when it comes to the fans, they're just not. And I know this is what we do for a living, and I've been all over this, and you have too for 4 years now. But the Sun Belt is a good G5 football league right now. It's really good.
There were 5 teams that won 9 or more games in that league last year.
Yeah, I mean, again,
pretty good.
App State, James Madison, Coastal Carolina,
Troy's
Georgia
really good.
Southern, Troy, all the old Division II and Division I AA. Marshall, I think, is in that league.
Marshall's
right?
in that league as well.
Right. I mean, oh my gosh. You're telling me playing Murray State and Western Illinois, even though the Leathernecks are gone, that's going to beat playing App State and James Madison in football?
Nope.
Get the hell out of here. I mean, come on, guys. So before you're getting after me on Twitter, folks, at least just do 5 seconds of who's in each conference and whether that matches up with playing Drake and Murray State.
Because it doesn't.
You know, I mean, it just doesn't.
It does not. Let's take a break. We mentioned attendance, ticket sales. We're going to talk about that because it's a topic I mentioned late last week in the show. I've got some response on that. Kolpak wrote a story about it today. We'll do that. Much more with Mike McFeely as we wrap up hour 1 of Hot Mike. We'll do it right after this on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls at Inforum.com. Back with Mike McFeely as we wrap up hour one of Hot Mike here on this Tuesday morning. Hey, don't roll your eyes to the back of your head completely. Later today, the Vikings are unveiling a new throwback jersey for the 2023 year.
1973. Let's hope it's something cool like that.
I hope so. That'd be
something that
neat.
Ron Yeri wore back in the day. By the way, before we move on, you need to find the video of Wiz Khalifa throwing out the first pitch, because apparently he was stoned to the bejesus throwing out the first pitch in a Pirates game. There's got to be video of it. And apparently, he threw a fireball right down the pipe, and he was stoned out of his gourd.
There you go, Eric.
Now, Wiz Khalifa, by the way, is a rapper, Dom.
I do know who he is.
He was born in Minot, North Dakota.
From North Dakota. Yes.
Grew up in Pittsburgh, and he's a Pittsburgh rapper, but he threw out the first pitch, or the ceremonial first pitch at the Pirates game.
We'll get the guys
and then was on
that.
social media saying, "Wow, was I stoned? I was taking shrooms." So...
And he threw a strike. Have you seen the video?
I have not seen the video.
Okay.
I just saw the
We'll get
photos
the guys
and his.
here.
I saw
Hopefully
his
they can find it
tweets.
for us.
Yeah. I mean, Doc Ellis back in the day for the Pirates was
I know that story.
was like on LSD and he threw a no-hitter.
No-hitter.
Yeah, but now Wiz Khalifa is doing shrooms before throwing out the first pitch.
No, there's no way to segue here. I have no idea where we're going. I know Kolpak has a story. Oh, you got all right. Hold on. Before we transition, then let's play it. We got the. If we've got it here, let's. All right, there he is.
There he is. Are the Pirates any good?
They're not bad actually this year.
I
They
haven't
brought
been
up one of
following
their.
baseball as much as I should.
They got crushed last night, but they brought up one of their top. Well,
What's
we can't. That's not bad. We can't see where it landed.
Okay,
All right.
I mean, that's because the official major league video, so they're not going to. Well, I've never been high on shrooms, so I don't know what it does.
Here's another
to you.
angle. Here we go.
Here we go.
This is from the top angle here. What is?
Oh, okay. I mean, that's not bad.
And there's the tweet you.
Yeah.
Well, shroomed out throwing a baseball is crazy.
Yeah.
There's words I never thought I'd say on this air.
No. That's what I had to tweet out. North Dakota's own Wiz Khalifa, by the way.
Oh, man. All right. Well, with that said, I don't know where we go from here. The U.S. Bank Stadium game we're sitting now 46 days out. Kolpak has a story visited with NDSU AD Matt Larson that season ticket sales are down.
Down a bit, yep, 1,000, which is significant.
We have discussed this off air on the lack of interest for the game at U.S. Bank Stadium. I've had a host of emails and tweets come in over the last few days since I brought it up on the air last Friday about different reasons why. I got an email last night about the crime situation in Minneapolis, which I figured was probably going to come up, to the ticket fees for the game that are too high, and they're waiting to the day of the game to get it.
Yeah, but how much of a walk-up is there going to be?
I said that yesterday on the show. I think when you broke the story first, like 3 or 4 years ago, I think NDSU was hoping they get more than they had at Target Field. Like they're hoping for 40,000.
Sure, I think when they scheduled the game, I think yes, that was like they were coming off the Target Field bonanza, which was just a fantastic,
great
day.
environment,
just
awesome,
a great day. It was like sort of the celebration of everything that had come from 2011 until 2019. There was 35,000 people, whatever it was.
It was Matt Ence's first game. It was Trey Lance's first game.
It was just a beautiful day. It was just fantastic.
And it was loud. It was they were hoping a car be copping that.
It was a celebration of Bison football. Yes. And they've traveled well to other FBS games on the road.
We saw it last
September.
September.
Thought all of that with the alumni base in Minneapolis, the excitement about Bison football, all this, they thought a decent FCS opponent, a traditional power. They thought, boy, I think we're going to get 40,000.
Yes.
They didn't tell me that, but you could kind of sense that's what they thought. It was going to be a bigger deal.
Yep. That's not going to be the case.
I tweeted out yesterday, I think it's going to be 15,000.
Man.
That will be
empty in there.
And the reason I say that is because you can go on the gobison.com website, go to the schedule, you can click on tickets for the U.S. Bank game, and you can see a seat map of what seats are taken. There are, 15,000 might be stretching it.
Wow.
I mean, there are not a lot of tickets sold.
That's a 65,000 seat stadium. You and I have been there when it's been packed.
Yep.
I have not been there when it's been empty.
I
don't
have
know.
not either. I've been there when it's been completely empty for a tour before it opened, but for a game, I have not. It's going to be.
I mean, they get 10,000. I want to say. I have to look at the attendance mark for like the big school championship game at the Prep Bowl, because I think it's probably around 10. I would imagine, like for the 6A championship game.
But what I'll say is, and I'll get into this later this week or next week or whenever, but we have for years said, boy, the playoff game didn't sell out.
Yep.
Huh. Oh boy, this game in October is 15,000 instead of 19,000. The playoff games last year were not much excitement.
Yep.
And we've always heard different excuses. It's the students aren't showing up, and COVID has people scared, and Trey Lance took a knee, and all these other things. Beer sales.
Yep.
Wi-Fi. Yeah, right. It's all these other things, and not knocking you.
It's all
but
ancillary stuff that we have tried to nail this down. We have for the last 3 years on this.
But at what point does it fall on North Dakota State's athletic department for not marketing the programs?
We've said that too. Yeah.
I mean, what I know that from 2011 till 2018, 2019, you could, to use the cliche, roll out the helmet, and there was going to be 18,000 people show up for games. You could see it in 2018 when there was an entire section empty for the Wofford, quarterfinal or semifinal, whatever it was. The alarm bells for me. The game where the alarm bells went off was the James Madison semifinal in 2021. They did not sell that out.
Right.
For James Madison.
Yep.
James Madison in the semifinals.
Friday night.
Yep. Everything lined up to have a standing room only crowd.
A monster crowd,
going nuts.
Yep.
There was 16,000 people in the 19,000 seat dome. And if that didn't set off the alarm bells in North Fargo,
nothing will.
Then nothing will.
Yeah.
And I wrote that at the time. I wrote before the game, if they don't sell this game out, wow. I mean, this is wow.
Yep.
They need to reassess something if they don't. And they didn't. They didn't come close.
No, because we saw that playoff run was Southern Illinois and East Tennessee State. And the East Tennessee State, that 11 a.m., which they have cornered the market on that 11 a.m. Saturday game. And it was, oh, boy, there's nobody here.
Right. But James Madison's potentially last game in FCS.
Right. That was
the best rival you've had in the playoffs for the last 5 or 6 years at the Dome on a Friday night for a chance to go to Frisco.
Yep.
To potentially at that point play South Dakota State in Frisco because they had not played yet. They were playing Montana State the next day in Bozeman. And so, everything was there. And they came up 2,000 to 3,000 tickets short.
Yep.
And I went, ooh, this is one that's, I don't know. And now last year they still sold 12,500 season tickets, right? Which is probably better than, still 11,000. They're going to sell 11,500 season tickets this year. And it's down 1,000, which is alarming to me. But it's still more than every other Valley team.
Yes.
It's probably, other than the HBCUs and Montana State, it's probably still more than everybody else
still
in
really
FCS.
Good. Yep.
Right? Every other FCS. Southern Illinois would kill to have 12,000
South
season
Dakota
tickets.
State would.
Right. UND, South Dakota State, South Dakota, they would
line them
kill
up.
to have,
absolutely right.
Probably half of that for season ticket sales. And so to keep it in perspective, but if you're NDSU and football revenue, ticket sales drives everything else, which it does to a certain extent, you have to meet budget.
Yep.
You have to depend on that money. And if you're not, then you better do something.
Got to come from somewhere.
Right. And if you want to go to the Mountain West, by the way, and say, we want to be in your league, and they're going, but you have 10,000 for a playoff game.
Right. You got a bunch of empty seats. Like, what do we want
what
you
do we want
for?
you for? I thought that your sales job was you fill the place, and the Dome is impossible to play because it's so loud. Well, what are you doing at NDSU? NDSU, what are you doing to sell tickets? I mean,
I saw a promotion on. I think you saw the same thing that Boise State had, where if you go to a game, you get a ticket for the next game, right?
What they're trying to do is you're betting on Boise to win, first of all, right? But you're buying a ticket for a game they're going to win. It's like whatever. I mean, the first game is somebody like not very good, right? So you sell a ticket for $125, and then you say, as long as you keep coming to the games and as long as we keep winning, you can come for free. And so
why not?
I mean, if you're NDSU,
especially with this year's home schedule,
right.
I would do that in a heartbeat.
And who cares? I mean, and the answer you're going to get is, well, we can't just give away tickets. But why not?
Exactly. What's stopping that right now?
And I saw, and maybe this is just coincidence and just timing, but South Dakota State tweeted out right after Kolpak's story came out, oddly enough, that they're selling 3-game ticket packages.
Yep.
Right?
Because they have the primo schedule at home this year. The Jacks do.
And so you get for one of the packages, you get one premium game, North Dakota State
or Northern Iowa
or something or whatever, and then you get 2 other, quote unquote dog games.
Well, think of what the Jacks have at home. They have Montana State.
Yep.
They have North Dakota. They have North Dakota State and Northern Iowa. Those are 4 teams that are all going to be in the top 20 poll.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean,
yep. And so this year, if you're North Dakota State and you see the home schedule you have.
Correct, which they knew. And again, going to your point, they knew in advance.
They've known for 2 years.
2 years on this, yes.
Right? And so why didn't you say,
correct,
in retrospect, if you buy a ticket to the U.S. Bank Stadium game, you get into the main game.
Or Central Arkansas.
For free.
Yes.
And if the season ticket people get mad about it, I mean, okay. I mean, whatever. You're not going to lose 10,000 season ticket holders.
What are you going to get mad about? There's empty seats.
Right.
Outside of South Dakota's the homecoming game. That one we know will draw well because it's homecoming.
Yep.
But you're going to sit there and tell me how many's going to be there for Murray State, how many's going to be there for Western Illinois,
right,
at the end of October, back-to-back weekends,
and especially, okay, we think NDSU is going to be pretty good,
yes,
like they always are, but especially. Okay, what if Eastern Washington is better than we think they are?
Correct.
And they throw for 500 yards against the Bison and win. What if the Bison go to Grand Forks and lose?
Yep.
How many people are going to show up for
those 2 games I just mentioned?
The late games, I mean.
And then it's Southern Illinois in November. Right.
I mean, okay. I mean.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
It will be. It's fair. And again, NDSU's problems are always magnified.
Correct.
Because it's NDSU. And I'm already getting people on Twitter from Brookings and other places, doing the horns down thing. It's like, really? How many season tickets have the Jackrabbits sold?
Right.
And by the way, if I think there's going to be 15,000 at U.S. Bank for the Bison game, I'm saying there's going to be 15 to 20 at Target Field.
Right.
Which is half of a sellout. So, the folks chirping in Brookings, the fans, maybe
might pipe down a little.
Maybe slow your roll a little bit.
Yeah.
20,000 is more than 15,000. Yep. But it's also half of what NDSU drew to Target Field, and it's half of what 2 Division III schools.
I was going to say what St. John's and St. Thomas had there.
Maybe slow the roll a little bit.
We went way past our break here.
I don't care. So. I'm that dang good, and I'm that fired up.
Wiz Khalifa threw us all off here, so we went down the rabbit hole there. Great to see you. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you later, all right? Mike McFeely joining us each and every Tuesday. We'll take a break. We'll get back on time here. We'll start hour 2 of Hot Mike. We'll do it right after this.
This is Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody. Hot Mike on this Tuesday morning, WDAY Extra, KSFL TV and Sioux Falls Inforum.com. Our thanks to Mike McFeely for giving us a few minutes there on a topic that we will certainly, we have been discussing and will as the lead up to the game gets even more intense. I mentioned we're 46 days out from the Bison game at U.S. Bank Stadium. I've wondered this since the national championship when we were in Texas, and I've said this several times on the show. I've seen our ratings. I've seen the analytics for the stories that go on Inforum. They're both through the roof when it relates to Bison football. Really, really good. The interest is there. Heck, almost every story that we've done on a incoming recruit has been really good. There has not been a lack of interest there. That's why I don't know the disconnect that they're not hitting here. You know, is the experience that poor to game? From the tailgate lot to actual tailgating to then the football game. I know that they have tried different things, they being SDSU, in terms of the fan experience. But a lot, again, I know probably grasping at straws here. I still believe the fan experience is still very similar to when you went to a game in 2011 to when you went to a game last year. They still have, and I know traditions are important, right? They still have the tunnel walk, thunderstruck. They come out of the helmet, they play football, and we go. You know, but it's the ancillary things around the game that are, in my opinion, stale. I know they changed up a little bit, but when you're encouraging fans to submit photos at the stadium, I forget what they say. They'll tweet something that we're here. And people can't access the phone because you can't do it because there's 19,000 in the building and there's no Wi-Fi. I know people have already heard it. I've hammered this to death, but it's hard to encourage that and then not be able to interact because there's not a wireless service to do it. The seats are crummy. I'm with you there. I know they've tried to make the suites thing happen. That's clearly not going to happen for the 2023 season. I don't know if that would be a better fan experience. There's something to be said for the product on the field, but that's always been excellent. Honestly, it's not as if the play on the field has not been exemplary, because it has. Now, the opponents is another thing. But you knew this going in, right? This is the one thing that in college football, you know ahead of time. We have schedules set already for 2028. The Bison have their home games already set for the next 4 football seasons, 23, 24, 25, 26. We know for the most part. Can get out in front of that. You know, some unique promotional deal. I had somebody mention this to me that the Bison are playing 3 teams nicknamed Bears this year. Have they ever done that before? Maine is the Bears. Central Arkansas is the Bears. Missouri State is the Bears. Is there something there? I don't know. I'm not an ad wizard. Never went to school for it, okay? I couldn't tell you. But then again, I think there's a lot of people struggling in the sports media area of how to get either eyeballs in front of the TV or butts in the seats. That is a common refrain these days, where ratings that we once would shudder at, now people go, over the moon for. It's not the same. There's a lot more of things available now. I just look at what we're able to do and what I can see. People clearly watch, people clearly read, people clearly listen. So what is it about the actual getting there, going, that is dissatisfying? I know after last season, NDSU put out a survey and took some examples from that. Alcohol sales was number one. I don't know if they did it again. I hope they did after this past season and say, okay, we did this. What else would you like to see? What else can help your experience at the game? Probably do that. I'll open it up here. What else could help your experience at a Bison football game? I'd love to know that. Whether it's, hey, can we tailgate the night before? Like, that's what happens in big-time Power 5 football. Is it the experience of having a longer tailgate after the game? I don't know. More interaction with the team. Who knows? I'd love it. Give me some reasons here. I'd love to know what's going on. All right, we got to take a break so we get back on time. We'll do that. I want to play a couple of sound bites here, including from South Dakota State AD Justin Sell. We asked him about FBS football. We'll do that when Hot Mike returns on this Tuesday morning. We're back right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Hot Mic rolls on. Tuesday morning edition. Tom Miller coming up in about 15 minutes from Grand Forks. We'll chat some UND football. We'll get back into the discussion on NDSU football attendance here in a little bit. The Bison have landed another commit from Sioux Falls, so from our area down there in KSFL. They know him well. Rylan Satter, Sioux Falls O'Gorman standout, 6'1", 220 pounds. Likely projected at a tight end or fullback spot. Bison returned to South Dakota. Already got Jet Zabel out of Pierre. That happened back in June. And now get Satter to commit as well. They have feasted on getting really talented players out of the state of South Dakota. Satter announced at the end of June he received a preferred walk-on opportunity to play for the Bison, and we'll take that. So that'll be up to 17 commits for NDSU. We're hoping to hear from him likely on the show tomorrow about his commitment. So Rylan Satter is the next from Sioux Falls O'Gorman. Bison have really had their field day in Sioux Falls. I mean, it's a laundry list of guys that have come up and produced, for the likes of Preston Evans going way back when, to Trevor Gebhardt, Dan Marlette. They have done very well in the Sioux Falls area. So they're hoping they've got another there in Rylan Satter, who is the latest commit for the Bison for the class of 2024. Speaking of South Dakota, back to the topic we were talking about in our first hour on the potential of FBS movement with North Dakota State. And if South Dakota State is interested, are the Jacks in that same mindset? I get the sense that SDSU wants to enjoy its time in the sun in FCS, knowing they are the champs, they are the prohibitive favorites in 2024, that they want to soak this in and enjoy being the kings of the mountain. But that's not how it works. That if the FBS invite comes, that you got to be, as Mike was saying in our first hour, you got to be prepared to give an answer on this. For those that missed it, back in March, we had Justin Sell, the South Dakota State AD, join the show when we were in Sioux Falls for the Summit League basketball tournament. I found this from yesterday. I want to play it. The two questions I asked are relative to FBS football and South Dakota State. Here's our interview that we did with him in March.
I got to ask, because the overtures are loud in Fargo about FBS. Have you had those discussions with your president? Where do you stand about South Dakota State and a potential FBS move?
Yeah, I think, well, first and foremost, we're in tune with NDSU. They've been such great partners. They're great friends. I mean, obviously, we all need worthy rivals. I mean, they challenge you to get better, and I think that's NDSU for us. We're proud of that relationship, and I think given our geography and types of schools, land-grant schools, it makes sense for us to certainly be thinking about things together. But the other thing, and I've said this for 14 years, these are hard enough jobs to make sure you are really good on your own, and the focus on being able to do that so you are wanted no matter what happens. And if that's strengthening the Summit League and being able to do some things around football and some other things as the world starts to unshake a little bit, you got to be prepared. And so but given where we are located, I just the phone calls aren't coming. It's not like, everyone's saying, hey, come move up to our league or do this or do that. So, we'll have all the data, all the information, but and not knowing what Division I's going to look like, or those conferences. Look, if some of them fall apart and now you have a certain subset of schools, TV money may be less, might be more. The travel challenges, time zones. There's so many factors that I don't think you can say, yeah, we definitely want to do that. We want to play at the highest level we possibly can, certainly be competitive and compete for championships. Wherever that is, whatever that means, we will be fully prepared. But today, that's the Summit League, that's the Missouri Valley Football Conference, and we're going to make sure sure those leagues are the best that they can be.
Do you believe, in your opinion, you would need to be paired with NDSU to make a move like that? Would that benefit both you guys if you went together, like you went together Division I?
Yeah, I just don't see how we can't be playing everything with NDSU. We need to compete with them, against them. No. You know, those are the best venues. You walk in, every sport, every time, they're full. People are interested. They're engaged. They drive eyeballs to TV. You know, we challenge each other. You know, we always say you got to be careful what you wish for. I mean, we'd have to get better. And I think in doing that, when
and
you
more money, by the way, too.
Well, a lot more money. And I think and hey, donors get challenged. You know, I think those have benefited probably both our programs. And in doing that, then you know you can meet those challenges, whatever they are, is whether it's competing now and winning more championships. And for NDSU and us, it's interesting. Those games are really important, as are most of the league games, but our goals are to win games in the NCAA. I mean, it's beyond, we certainly want to beat NDSU, but it's more because they're in the way of that goal.
Correct.
And I think NDSU would say the same thing. Absolutely. And that's the difference with our two schools across the board and why we probably should be together.
That was from March at the Summit League tournament, and I appreciate we were able to find that yesterday. I think it was pressing considering the topic that was brought up. And I think SDSU can't dawdle on this. If there was ever, and again, we're talking, who knows if this even would come to fruition, but I'd be really, really intrigued to see what would be the case if it was presented in front of them. If it was a Mountain West twofer or whatever league, Conference USA wants to add 2 members, they want NDSU and SDSU. You can't hesitate on something like that. And if Sell is to be believed on what he's saying, that they want to play teams, they want to play NDSU, they want to compete against NDSU, then there's no other way to take that other than they should be playing against one another. I agree with him on that, by the way. But if NDSU has an opening to go, they're going to go. Especially, as Mike was saying, and I mentioned this in the first hour, if there's that football-only opportunity, they will not hesitate on that. That is, and they shouldn't. I don't know if that's again, all of it is just, we're howling at the moon right now. Know that willingly discussing this, that it could be a complete and utter long shot and could be never happen. I mean, we could be 5 years from now and this is still where we're at. I think I'm freely and more than willing to know that could very well be the case. That I thought when the Texas and Oklahoma move happened 2 summers ago, and I was asked about this a couple days ago with Sam Herder when I was on his podcast, I thought then it was coming. I thought whatever the realignment wheel that was going to spin was going to land in Fargo and going to have some major changes. And there were major changes. The Big 12 went and added 4 schools. The Big 10 went and added 2 more in UCLA and USC. The AAC went and got a few schools. Conference USA added a bunch. Heck, the Sun Belt added a few, including James Madison. It didn't stop here, though. And then I thought when we heard the news on UCLA and USC last summer, I think, okay, now here we go again. And that one didn't. It was very small. And now here as we sit on the 18th of July, is it going to happen again when San Diego State finally announces what they're going to do? I think there's more coming. Every commissioner has stated that. Sankey did yesterday. Yormark, we played it last week for you. The Big Ten, when they have their media days next week, I guarantee you they're going to say that next week. It's only a matter of time, and that's the part that's really intriguing to see where things go. We'll take a break. We come back. We'll head north and visit with our good friend Tom Miller from the Grand Forks Herald about UND's pretty interesting plan for its athletes. Also chat about the new women's basketball tournament that's coming to the postseason for 2024. We'll do that when Hot Mike rolls on a Tuesday morning. Back after this. Welcome back, everybody. Hot Mic rolls on, Tuesday morning edition. Tomorrow on the show, packed. Dick Bramer, of course, will join us from Seattle. We'll also introduce you to the newest high school football team in North Dakota. Introduce you to the Minot North Sentinels as they get set for varsity play a year from now as they'll break onto the scene as we're closing into the start of a new high school football season. We'll check in on that coming up tomorrow on the show. Looking forward to that. It's always a treat to have our next guest on. Now with a enhanced title I can throw next to his name. Now the new editor, the sports editor of the Grand Forks Herald, the 2022 North Dakota Sports Writer of the Year, Tom Miller joins us. I saw you ran into my good buddy Scotty Iceberg down in Winston-Salem as well. He knows everybody. Yeah. Scott knows everybody, I swear.
Yeah, it's wild that the seating arrangement has landed him next to North Dakota a couple times here. So, yeah, we were able to swap some of the same stories. But it's funny. And his first thing is basically, do you know Dom Izzo? Do you know Josh Morton? And, so we had some connections pretty fast there, even though he's from South Carolina.
Charleston, South Carolina. He's a good egg. We've had him on the show a couple of times. Well, first, and all seriousness, congratulations. Second, for people that don't know, is this change your day-to-day stuff? Like, we're getting ready for the upcoming season. I know people love reading you and watching for UND football. Is that going to change for this upcoming fall?
No, UND football will still be my beat. I might not be able to get to as many other things as I would like with some of the other stuff that's on my plate now. But for the most part, I'm still going to nerd up and watch fall camp and spring ball and do all those things. So yeah, excited to kind of take on this new role this year.
Well, congratulations on that, man. We're excited, and we're glad you're still going to be covering football because you're a go-to on that. The Fighting Hawks just got a commit out of the state of Wisconsin. I know you wrote about it this morning, and Colton Brunell from Columbus, Wisconsin. Give us a little 411 on their latest commit they just got.
Yeah, just has been incredibly productive. Led Columbus to a 14-0 record last year. State championship in Camp Randall against the three-time defending Division IV champion in Catholic Memorial. I believe Columbus is on the smaller end of Division IV. Hadn't won a state title since 1996, so it's not like something that happens every year to that school. Only needs 1,800 yards to break the all-time Wisconsin prep rushing record.
Wow.
And when you ran for 2,200 as a sophomore and 2,800 as a junior, he will most likely, barring any injury, obliterate the all-time state rushing record in Wisconsin. So, first impression is a big-bodied kid, who says he doesn't want to be just a downhill runner.
Yeah.
Can also do some things in space, which is kind of what every bigger-bodied kid says. Coaching staff thinks he's got some similarities to a Tyler Huseman, who
worked out well.
Who was just an incredible get for North Dakota last year, and they keep bringing up his name now, whether it's in the transfer world, they're looking for that guy, or now in the high school recruiting game, they think they found something similar here.
It's funny because I remember we visited about when Huseman decided to transfer, and I think you and I both, and I think UND to an extent was like, well, we're just not sure what he can do. And now here we are a year plus removed from it, and he was the godsend that they got last year.
Yeah, isn't it funny how
it's
some
really
of it
weird.
is just so much opportunity when your first reaction is if you're an outcast at Northern Iowa, there's no way you can be such a major difference maker at North Dakota, but that's how it turned out.
Bubba's hammered Wisconsin here. Is that surprised you? I know they got a couple from the same school in Sun Prairie, but was that a focus for them to get into that state more than they have?
I think they always want to get into Wisconsin. I feel like there are times that anytime I ask about it, if there's a year where they didn't get a bunch in Wisconsin, I think maybe there's kind of a roller coaster amount of talent there in Wisconsin. But and I'm sure you know this, Wisconsin is ideal because it's Badgers or bust.
Yep.
There's no other D1s. There's no D2s. You get all the kids who aren't getting the Wisconsin Badgers, and to some extent that's what happens in Minnesota. But North Dakota, I think, feels like maybe there's a little less competition. Once you get down into like Omaha, that's hard for North Dakota because, hey, come up to our campus, and you're driving down I-29 and you're driving by Brookings and Vermilion and Fargo to get to Grand Forks. So I think Wisconsin is ideal, and I think that in women's basketball, I think that in football, great state to recruit.
I'm interested. I know you wrote the story. We visited with Dang Dang a couple weeks ago. That our viewers certainly know him from his prowess on the basketball floor. What does UND hope for him as a prospect at the Division I football level?
Yeah, I think really just taking a chance on a body type and a skill set there. I don't know exactly what to expect. I've seen him play basketball. Obviously a transition dunking machine.
Yes.
And if you're North Dakota, you hope that translates. But it's funny because this year they're betting on two kids to do that, Dang Dang and essentially Eric Pay, who doesn't have a whole lot of background in the football world out of Grand Forks Central, who you're just saying, okay, are these kids 6'4"? Do they project, body types? Basketball translates really well. We saw it with a Noah Wanzik or a Travis Toivonen. Garrett Mogg was a basketball kid in high school. So North Dakota likes those body types, and very curious to watch Dang Dang get here.
Yeah, that's that when I saw them, I'm like, all right, that's that's when you take a chance on. You see, if it pays off, great. If it doesn't, then you can say, well, we took a chance, and that's how recruiting goes, though. You can either hit a home run or strike out. It's basically how it works.
And I think Bubba Schweigert has said, we're going to take our chances with kids in the
state,
area.
yep.
And when you hit on those kids like an Adam Zavalny, it pays off for you.
I got to ask here as we're closing in a couple weeks out. I know you probably haven't formulated all your storylines yet, but give us a couple at the top of your head. Like, these are the ones come day 1, day 2 of camp that I'm going to be watching.
Yeah, I mean, number one is there a different vibe defensively?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that North Dakota made a ton of moves in the transfer world, which a year ago I would have said, blow it all up, bring every transfer with a pulse. That's not what they did. But you've got a different defensive coordinator. And, we saw, I'm not saying that this is a Paul Rudolph to Danny Freund situation, but we saw how quickly a vibe can change on one side of the ball. So let's see what Joel Schwenzfeier's tenure here, what he stresses and what the guys pick up. So that's my number one thing. Defense, does it look any different? Does it feel any different? Because it needs to be if North Dakota's going to get over that hump.
I was visiting with Mike McFeely about this before you came on in our first hour, just looking at the schedule as well, how it shakes out early. That if UND's hovering around 4-4, that end of the schedule, Tom, with Indiana State, at Murray State, at USD, Illinois State, you got to win probably 3 of those last 4 to get to that 7-win threshold. And it always seems to me, and I think you'd agree with this, it's the game with USD. I circle it every year. That's the make or break game for them every single year on the calendar.
Yeah, and Illinois State
that would be a tough
hasn't
one
been
too.
Easy on North Dakota either. So that I tell people ask me already, well, how's North Dakota going to be this year? Well, it's tough in Missouri Valley when you could be the 3rd best team in the country. You could be the 3rd best team in the FCS, and you're going into this season thinking if you're the 3rd best team in the FCS, you still are going to lose to Boise State, North Dakota State, and South Dakota State. You're going to start the season with 3 losses, and you think you're the 3rd best team in the country. So that's just how it is, and that's why it's hard to get over that hump, right? Like, that hump isn't taking place at 20th in the country or 15th in the country. No. It's like basically you got to beat North Dakota State to get over your hump.
You get a sense with that this year. They got him back. I know that was the talk leading into 21. Now, if NDSU is quote unquote vulnerable, how that one, I know it's the middle of the season, but boy, that you can't underestimate how that one will shake out. We previewed it earlier on the show today. That's a game with like 8 stars next to it, I have to imagine.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see that one play out on both ends.
Yes.
As is North Dakota State vulnerable? It has enough time passed between the Chris Kleiman era. I think we're going to learn a whole lot about North Dakota State this year.
Let me ask you this, and again, on July 18th, a couple weeks out before fall camp, who right now in your mind is the leading backup quarterback candidate behind Tommy Schuster?
Yeah, it's Trey Feeney. And, it's over, essentially, in my mind.
Okay.
So the competition in the spring, basically Quincy Vaughn went to the coaching staff and said, I want to be a bigger piece of this puzzle. Make me Javon Williams Jr., the Southern Illinois guy that kind of was a Swiss Army knife type. So I anticipate Quincy Vaughn on the field in some passing situations. I don't think he's ever going to put his hand in the dirt and maul people. You wore a red jersey for way too long in your life to be able to do that, I think. But I think there's a lot of things you can do with him. And whether you're using him creatively or he's a decoy, you're always going to have to be concerned about where Quincy Vaughn is. And NFL teams are doing this now, where they take that tight end, they pull him under center, and they sneak that way, because I'm sure NFL teams are thinking, why are we sneaking with our
quarterback,
multi-million-dollar quarterbacks?
Right. Yep.
So that I think there's plenty of copycat opportunities for North Dakota to figure some things out with Quincy Vaughn in that short yardage game that was really successful last year.
I got to ask about the story that Brad wrote last week about the Alston payments that are going to start coming to Ward athletes up at UND, first of its kind up here in the area. I know they've been working on it for a bit. Give me, I guess now, since the reaction's been out there over the last few days about this and how this is going to work once the season gets going.
Yeah, it's very interesting. The Alston Awards. I think what makes North Dakota unique too is that its hockey program recruits competitively against big boy football budgets that maybe had the opportunity to do Alston Awards.
Yeah.
If you're talking about Michigan or Wisconsin, so North Dakota maybe felt like they needed to have this in its arsenal to compete, to make sure that its cash cow, the hockey program, was set. And now I'm a little surprised that it sounds as if they're going to be able to do it as across the board as they are. I think there's a lot of coaches that are excited about this that couldn't tweet out that story fast enough. There's obviously going to be some anti-athletic, questions about where's the university side money coming from. That I think that's obviously pretty valid anytime that athletics starts getting a little bit more from the university fund at large. So I think that's going to be interesting to see, what kind of kickback they get from the university, because that's what's making it work right now. Eventually your hope, I'm sure, is that you get donors to 100% fund this. But at the same token, that's where you run into your problem.
Right.
Right? Like North Dakota State just built these nice new indoor practice facilities. If your donor base is going directly to your athletes, that donor base isn't going to your indoor practice facility.
Right, to the university. Yep.
So you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. Yep. And that's why we spoke with the Athletic Foundation, who said some of all the right things, but in the end, that has to be the concern.
No doubt.
Can you get that money to the athletes from your donors, but can you also get that money to your projects
for facilities and everything else that you need for that? That's everywhere. Everywhere is dealing with that right now. Lastly, before I go, I don't know if you saw the story yesterday. The NCAA announced that they're going to create another women's postseason basketball tournament. I know NDSU and UND's teams each did that. Each paid their own way. UND went to Florida, I think, for 3 games in March. The Bison went to the WNIT and paid their own way. I'm intrigued with this time. We don't know the specifics, if it's going to take the top runner-up like the WNIT, but the NCAA's fitting the bill on that, which is it's a game changer for both programs like NDSU and UND.
Yeah, because that was the concern in the past. Even last year, I kind of questioned, with a little bit of a veteran team. Now, Borovich has now decided to come back, but with the veteran team, I kind of thought, do you go there and pay for the team to go there? But those players have exhausted their eligibility.
Right.
You're not developing anything for the future here. But in the end, on the other side of that token, are you providing rewards for your student athletes, and that reflects, well on you as an athletic department? That's probably how they viewed it.
It's long coming, because what I found out about the WNIT, just how expensive it is. The Bison were out there for 3 days in Eugene, fitting the bill on that. That's a major deal for where the men's NIT, the NCAA covers all of that, all of it. So that this was totally a gender equity deal, which needed to happen. But I'm glad to see it, and it's hopefully for teams like NDSU and UND that think they're going to be playing postseason basketball. It's a better opportunity there to do that. It's great to see you, my man. I appreciate the time as always. Be well. Enjoy the last couple weeks of freedom before we talk to you out at fall camp. Okay.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
Good to see you,
chat
bud.
with you,
Thanks,
Dom.
Bob. There he is, Tom Miller from the Grand Forks Herald, the new sports editor up at the Herald, joining us here on this Tuesday morning. We'll take a break. We come back. We'll put a bow on the show and get you ready for a busy Sports Tuesday. We'll do that. Hot Mike Raps right after this on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, and Inforum.com. Tuesday show in the books. Big sports day on tap. As we mentioned, Twins are coming up here. We'll do what to watch in just a second. Tomorrow, Dick Bramer will join us from Seattle. Also, tomorrow in studio, North Dakota State senior wide receiver Braylon Henderson will be here. Chat about the upcoming Bison football year. Also, he was nominated for the All-State Hands Award that goes to the top football players from both Division 1, 2, 3 for what they do for their work in the community. So Braylon will join us tomorrow in studio. Looking forward to that tomorrow on the show. So, and we'll dive into, can't believe he's a senior. I remember when 2019, his redshirt freshman year, as it turned out, he was on the fence there, potentially playing in Frisco, Texas, because he's from Plano. I've been to his school. I've seen it up close. And if he played in the national championship game that year against James Madison, it would have used his that year of eligibility. He ended up not playing, which I'm sure was probably difficult for him. He got back, obviously, to win the last 2 years he's been there, and after the 21 and 22 season. So excited to have him in studio. Played in Texas as well, down in Sam Houston. Had a big punt return touchdown in his home state of Texas. So he'll join us coming up on the show tomorrow. Looking forward to that. All right, let's do some what to watch before we get out of here. All right, Twins and Mariners coming up again tonight, 8:30 on Bally Sports North. Not too bad with a start time like that. You're all right with, I can live with those kind of games, it's about 3-hour games. We'll see how they do tonight. Bailey Ober, we mentioned, is going for the Twins in game 2 of that set as they'll try to even up. It's a 4-game set. Another night game tomorrow, then a day game coming up on Thursday before they come back home to Target Field to play their first series of the second half at home. 8:30 tonight on Bally Sports North. SEC Media Days continuing now on the SEC Network. It is talking season, so lots to discuss there. 4 separate coaches are going to be up at the podium today after, pretty quiet day yesterday outside of Jimbo Fisher and Bobby Petrino getting a lot of headlines. Of course, Petrino left Missouri State to be the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M. So that's going on right now on the SEC Network. Tonight, Minnesota Lynx back in action as they begin the second half of the WNBA season. They are on the road to take on the Atlanta Dream. 6 o'clock on Bally Sports North Plus. The Dream are in 5th place, are tied for 4th, in the WNBA standings at 11-8. The Lynx are in 7th at 9-11. They lost their last 2 games heading into the All-Star break after they had a great stretch where they won 6 consecutive games. They're currently a game ahead of Chicago for the last playoff spot. So that's tonight, 6 o'clock on Bally Sports North Plus. We got to roll. Thanks to our guests today, to Mike McFeely and Tom Miller. If you missed any of our show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. Everybody have a great Tuesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow for a big Wednesday show on Hot Mike on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV, and Inforum.com. Have a great Wednesday, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Finding your hat the other day, it brought me back. My father, he had one just like it. And the 2 of you, 2 of you might have served together. There were a lot of good men. He always used to take me to those picnics. Had to drag me. I acted like I'd rather be anywhere else. But do you remember those flag football games? Well, he signed us up every year. It was the only part of the day where we didn't argue, but he always made sure that I got the score. Now I know why he wanted me there with him. Those memories, they're all I have left. Now I know this house is special to you, Henry, but you can't come back here anymore. It's my home. I know, you're right. It was, but your wife, she's worried for you.
Lois. She takes real good care of me.
Yeah. So why don't we get you back to her? Keep this. That's all right.
Take it. A reminder.
The most important word to Firehouse 51 is community.
There's nothing like being a dad.
When he raises his hand, we pull it to his feet.
A woman like her comes around once in a lifetime.
When this community calls, we respond.
You stay